Where is Chad?
I think we lost somebody.
Where is Chad? Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hello,
There he
everyone.
is.
Whoa. We are on our way to having the best top-rated podcast yet.
I'm telling you, a better podcast would just start over. That's not us. This is episode number 405. I tried to abandon these guys. Episode 405. This is the Riverfront podcast. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. Thank you for joining us once again. With us this week, your friend and mine, the author of the noted bestseller, The Big 50, Chris Garber. How are you, Chris?
Doing well, thank you. Good.
Also with us again, my guy, Nate Dotson.
Excited to be here for this virtual book signing.
That's right. You're kind of between us now. All right. So, why don't you just tell us what's on the board behind you there, Nate?
I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we would like Mr. Bob Castellini, if he doesn't mind, he's got some time. Sell the team.
Which team? Team of oxen.
Let me ask this question. Right now, and Chris, I'll direct this to you because you're a Bengals fan as well as a Reds fan for a long time. No, not that long. Let's not get crazy. He's not that old. But sell the team, Bob Castellini. Sell the team, Mike Brown. Which one are you going for today?
I'm a very happy Bengals fan. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sell the team, Bob. If we're going to talk about the Bengals at all today, because
who they?
Who are they? That's a good question.
Who are they that think they're going to beat them Bengals?
I don't know that answer. So let's talk about the Cincinnati Reds if we can. We're going to start out with the topic of the week, as we've been doing recently, kind of a feature we're developing just to give us something to dive into. The topic of the week, as you will know if you read the title of this before you clicked on it, we're going to talk about our top 5 favorite Reds players before we get into what news there is of the week. And then some other fun things we have planned for you, and then viewer mail later. So top 5 favorite Reds players of all time. Okay. So each of us have come up with our list of top 5. And a lot of overlap, obviously, on these lists. Not a lot, but some overlap on these lists, and you won't be surprised who they are. But I thought it'd be fun. It was actually, I think, Nate's idea maybe so this is a way to talk about some of these guys we love to talk about, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look at these lists, and there are, I think, 2 names that are on all 3. No, there's only 1 name that are on all 3 lists, right?
Just one.
As I'm looking at only one name made all 3 lists. Chris, why don't you tell us who that name is? Could it possibly be Joseph Daniel Votto?
Is by consensus vote the greatest Red of all time, apparently. Joey Votto, beloved by all, and hated by people who their hate is useful in identifying them as morons. So
I don't know if you could find 3 random Reds fans on Twitter who would all have Votto on their list. You know, it's for some reason. I don't know why it's controversial to like Joey Votto. Nate, quick thoughts about Votto?
Just the best player of our generation. It's an easy choice. Makes sense why we all picked him. Yeah, I'm sure there's some generations out there. Once you get above that 55-60 range, well, maybe not. But how could you not like the guy?
Yeah, exactly. Now, there were 2 more names I think that were on 2 different lists, and so Nate and I actually shared these 2. Then I think the rest are all one-off guys, so it's going to be interesting. So Adam Dunn was on my list and on your list, Nate. Why in the world would you like Adam Dunn?
His nickname's the Big Donkey. Rest my case. I don't know. Like I don't know what it is about Dunner that made him just so likable. I mean, Marty is Brenneman, one of the most beloved figures in Reds history. Never particularly seemed to like the guy. There's one of the most, engaged resources was sort of against him. But then there were moments like the Adam from Milwaukee phone call on the banana phone, and he just didn't care. He was hilarious. He would have been revered in today's game as a great player, much more so than he was at his time. He's just one of those fun dudes I think that the Reds have had. And it was right in my wheelhouse that like 15 to 20 range, when a big Texan who played college football and decided to want to hit really far home runs is, just my kind of guy.
He hit some home runs. Yeah, I think I in the end, what happened with Dunn was, I think the kind of the backlash against him, I always put it as people always hated him for what he couldn't do rather than enjoying what he could do, which was he did some things very, very well. Hit home runs, he got on base a lot, and I think part of the reason why he became my favorite player was some of that backlash. But then ultimately, he was just fun. He was fun to have around, and he ends up he's number one on my list. I think. I go back and forth between him and another player that we're going to talk about in a moment, but I think he's probably number one. Where is he on your? And we'll talk about what order we have him in a moment. But where is he on your list, Nate?
He's absolutely number one for me.
Number one. It's close for me. Chris, how could you not have Adam Dunn on your top 5 list?
He's up there. I mean, he's easily in my probably my top 10. Ask me again next time, and I'll probably give a different list. But I don't know. I love Adam Dunn. Just a delightful player to have on your favorite team.
He is delightful, no doubt about it. And so, anyway, Adam Dunn, almost a consensus here, two-thirds. So that's almost enough to get something passed in the Senate. There's one other player that I think ended up on both Nate and I's list, and this one actually surprised me. Dunn, I can understand. This one surprised me that, Chris, you didn't have him on your list. So since you didn't vote for him, I'm going to ask you to talk about him and to explain why you don't have Barry Larkin on your list like Nate and I do.
Oh, Barry Larkin is, for me, was a very easy player to admire, but hard to love, I think. The things he did on the field were amazing. He wasn't on the field as much as I would have liked, I guess, as a fan. And then, in the back half of his career, he became a good bit of a politician, I think, in the clubhouse and in the organization, and may have influenced some decisions that might not have been the very best for the team as a competitive entity. So I think that's where I kind of cooled on him. I mean, obviously, incredible player, one of the handful of the greatest Reds ever, one of the best shortstops in Major League history. And I'll defend him as a player. I just don't love him.
Well, we're not talking about best players. We're talking about your favorite players, and that can encompass anything. There are no rules for this. But for me, Larkin and Dunn forever. Larkin was my favorite player of all time, and Dunn and Votto are again the same thing. You could ask me any day, and I might change my mind as to which of those three are number one for me. For me, with Larkin, it was just again, not like Nate was talking about those teenage years. And here's the shortstop for the team that wins the world championship, and that was exciting for all of us. And not for Nate, he doesn't remember it, but and he was the I guess for me, he was the guy in my lifetime. The Big Red Machine had Bench, played his whole career, and then Concepcion as well, played their whole career here. And this was our guy, Barry Larkin. And not only that, he was the best shortstop in the game. He got robbed of gold gloves by that dude out in St. Louis, and everything that you just said, Chris, I can't argue with any of it. But I still, I can't. He just in terms of favorite players, until Votto came along, I wasn't sure we'd ever have one of these guys his full career who we got to watch every day and got to enjoy. So he stays on my list. But you're not wrong about anything you said. Nate, any quick thoughts about Larkin since he's on your list as well?
Sure. This was a really, really easy one too. The memories I have growing up going to Reds games, and they're like mini movies in my mind. And Barry Larkin was the lead actor in the first 20, 30 movies I saw in Cincinnati. So going to those games, and at Riverfront Stadium, you were there to watch Larkin. There wasn't much else to watch at that time, so I'll always love him. Special place in my heart, for sure.
No doubt. Okay, so now what we've done here is I think at this point, we've named 2 of my 5. We'll recap them in a moment. 3 of 5, but only 1 of Chris's 5. Chris, you can pick any of them, or I can tee one up for you. Do you have an actual number 1?
No, I didn't. I didn't think about it that way. I just kind of came up with 5 guys who I really enjoyed a lot and kind of wanted to talk about. And one of them's Jose Rio, who I think is probably the most underrated Red Definitely in our lifetimes, and maybe
Wait,
in
whoa,
the entire franchise
whoa.
history.
Kyle Farmer would like a word.
He's appropriately rated.
There you go. No, go. You're right. You're absolutely right. Completely underrated. People don't realize how good he was, do they?
Yeah. I mean, he was really, really good. And for a franchise that hadn't had Mario Soto, yeah, but hadn't had a consistent, dominant pitcher of that caliber very often at all. And I don't think we quite gave him the credit he was due when he was young and healthy and pitching as well as he could. It's only later, we were all young and dumb and focused on wins for pitchers.
Right.
And it's only now that we really see how much a master he was and try to appreciate in retrospect.
It's so true. What was it? 90. I want to say 90. I'm looking it up here now as we speak, because there's the 1 year that he finished third, I think, in the Cy Young voting. Yeah, it was 93. 93. Okay. So he finishes third. Greg Maddux wins it, which you can't really argue, I guess, Greg Maddux. But 93, Jose Rijo went 14-9 with a 2.48 ERA, which is good. That's why he finished third. He had that year, his wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference, 9.2 wins above replacement. That's like MVP level numbers. And yes, he didn't get a lot of wins. And yes, he had the injury problems. At his best, he was as good as anyone. And frankly, he's not on my list, but he could be just for the 1990 World Series alone.
Yeah, he finished in the Cy Young voting behind Maddux, Fair, Bill Swift, then Glavine,
Swift,
and
John
Burkett. And
he finished fifth?
Yeah. And you take any two of the guys who finished second, third, or fourth, and he has more wins above replacement than both of them combined.
He got an MVP vote that year.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned, just because we don't on this show, we talk a lot about Reds history. We don't talk about Rijo enough. He was a legitimate Hall of Fame talent, kind of like another guy on your list that we'll talk about, Chris, but a legitimate Hall of Fame talent that just didn't quite get there. Nate, any memories of Rijo?
If I had been born maybe 5 years sooner, I think he would have been on my list. It was just that little bit of gap for me. I didn't get to watch him enough. Not in my years that I could really know what was going on.
Chris, do you have one memory of Rijo?
Great baseball name.
That's true.
I don't have any kind of specific memory. I mean, that's part of the thing is that he didn't. I mean, in the World Series, he was a master, but he wasn't always like showily dominant.
Right.
You know what I mean? He wasn't
no hitters.
Yeah. So I don't really have a single moment where I'm like, that's what I think about.
But he was a rock. He was a rock in that rotation for a long time, and Reds haven't had too many of those.
And he was dominant. I mean, he was not a John Smiley type of guy. He was out there just putting guys down, but it wasn't, throwing 98.
I do have one specific memory, but it's only the one. It was Game 4, obviously, of 1990 World Series, and it was him. At some point, the Reds were down 1-0, and he comes off the field screaming, "Just get me," or maybe it was 0-0. Just get me one runner. Just get me 2 runs, and we'll win this thing. It was on that video, the World Series video, the "Where's Quinones" video, and I just remember him saying, "Just get me that." And I remember thinking at the time, "Oh my goodness!" I remember Tim Garber saying something dumb about him, but I don't know. It's a great call, great pick. I'm gonna take one of mine at this point now. So far, of my top 5, I've got Adam Dunn and Barry Larkin. And the next, actually, I've got Adam Dunn, Barry Larkin, and Joey Votto. So I've got 3. Actually, Nate,
we're running out of real estate.
We both have 3. So we're going to go back one more with Chris to get us evened up. Chris, can you talk about Eric Davis a little bit, please?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, Eric Davis was the man when we were growing up. Superhuman in terms of things he could do. He was one of those guys. I mean, like Votto, in a different way. When you watch Votto, there's only one. And as a fan of the Reds, when you see Votto play, There's nobody, no other team has a guy like this. That's what Eric Davis was like, but with a different skill set, obviously. And it was speed and power, and it was defense, and it was his arm. And man, that guy was just cooler than anybody else. But just if you saw, I know everybody, Nate's age and younger are rolling their eyes, but if you saw Eric Davis, he's one of the few people that makes me believe the baby boomers who talk about Mantle and the legends of their time. And then you hear the tall tales about guys who played in the Negro Leagues. It's like, I saw Davis, I saw Bo Jackson. I kind of believe those things are possible.
Yeah. As I made my list, and the last one I'm going to talk about on my list, the truth of the matter is I need to replace him. Eric Davis is in I don't know how I forgot Eric Davis. I mean, it's ridiculous. When we wrote the book, just researching Eric Davis, and I'm sure you'll remember this, Chris, but we're looking through newspapers and sporting newses and all the contemporary praise of that guy, and Willie Mays literally saying, "I'm honored to be compared," because they called Eric Davis the next Willie Mays, and Willie Mays said, "I'm honored to be compared to that guy." That's how good he was at his best. And yeah, injuries, whatever, but that guy was an inner circle Hall of Fame talent. The fact of the matter is, probably the most talented player I've ever seen in my lifetime on the Reds. Is that fair, Chris? I mean, have you seen anybody more it's not natural. I mean, he worked, but just more talented.
Maybe Aroldis Chapman on the mound, but otherwise, no. I mean, again, just miles above where other people were in the game.
Yeah, the kids are rolling their eyes, but it was true. Nate, any memories of Eric Davis?
I was getting ready to bring this up. I wish I had some. I know I was in the ballpark for plenty of games when he was still a Red, but I don't have a single one. I think he left his long stretch in Cincy when I was 6, so I just missed it. It's crazy looking at his baseball reference page that he played until 2001, and he had an MVP vote in 1998.
Yeah,
like
I mean, he was good.
Forget.
Yeah, that stretch in April and especially May of 1987 was something that I'll never forget. That, I mean, he had like 19 home runs by Memorial Day or something like that, and 20 steals, 1,200 OPS. I mean, it was bonkers. He was on pace for a 70-70 season.
Just insane.
I think he'd robbed like 4 home runs or something too defensively at the same time.
Yeah, that 87 season was the one we focused on in the book, because it was if you didn't live through it, people don't remember it these days. It was insane. But I remember when I was living in DC when Eric Davis was playing for the Orioles and going to Camden Yards, and my friends that were with me were like, "What's?" And I was like, I would get chills. It's Eric Davis. I'm like, "Hey, look, it's Eric Davis." And they didn't really get it, but. So yeah, that's a great call, and truthfully, he's on my top 5. I think I screwed up, but no one here will be surprised that I screwed up. So we've named 3 of each of our top 5 lists, and I'm going to give my 4th one here. And this is a guy that I wrote about recently and that we've talked about, but that it's another guy that people don't realize how great he was. I don't think he's the most underrated, maybe, but he's up there with the most underrated Reds of all time, of my lifetime, I should say. And that's Mario Soto. Mario Soto was my guy from the time I first started being a Reds fan. I mean, just because he was the guy that was like legitimately dominant when I first started following the Reds, 82, 83. 83 was the first real season where I really, truly followed him hardcore. And the dude was as good as anyone in baseball. And I don't know what else I can say that I didn't already put in print, but if you know, that, as the kiddos say, that dude could flat out pitch. And my favorite memory is when I would play wiffle ball in the front yard with my brother. We play one-on-one wiffle ball, and I had to be Mario Soto, and it always ended in a brawl. I'd throw it at somebody's head because Soto did that occasionally. But Nate, I know you've got no memories of Soto other than me talking about him, right?
None at all. I know he struck me out in wiffle ball in the front yard a couple times.
Chris, am I wrong about Soto? I mean, that guy was legit, wasn't he?
He was all we had in, 82, 83, in 84. they didn't have anything. I mean,
Bruce Berenni?
They sold us a tale of Clint Hurdle, but the anchor of the lineup was Dan Dreesen. So we were grasping on the Eddie Milners and Gary Reedus of the world, but Soto was a legit, top of the rotation, all-star, Cy Young vote getting starter that, strikeout leader in the league that was, he was just good, and I think we didn't get to know him as much. Obviously, there was a lot less coverage of the team, and he was. I don't know what his English language skills were like, but he wasn't, interviewed all the time on TV and radio, so we didn't really get to know him that much. I don't know if he was chatty with the writers, but I don't remember learning much about him as a guy.
Yeah.
But as a
that
player,
was the thing, especially back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was, and his career ended early. I mean, he got hurt and it was over, but he was actually signed to a contract through 1991. And so there's like this alternate version of history where he's, I don't know, even the number 5 starter even on that 1990 team. And so we all remember more fondly. He gets his ring, but didn't happen.
Yeah.
All right. So Nate, I'm going to come to you next and ask you about a particular person on your top 5 list that has not been mentioned yet. Sean Casey.
Ooh, the mayor.
Why is he on your list?
I was surprised that I was the only one that had him, to be honest with you. Arguably the most likable Cincinnati Red of all time. One of the most likable players to ever wear a Major League Baseball uniform. I don't know. Like he's still likable today. Do you follow him on Twitter or anything? He's just seems like such a genuine person. He was that way. I used to get a kick out of watching games and paying attention to how the other players interacted with him when they got to first base. It's like they were excited to get walked just as much because they helped their team as they were to hang out with Sean Casey at first base and get to catch up and say hi. So he was like my generation. You want guys that smile. He loved being at the ball yard.
Yeah, Sean Casey. And there was a time where if you'd have told me he was not going to be on my top 5 list, and he's close, frankly, in terms of favorite players, but I'd have been surprised. The early 2000s, I was like, that guy, for what you're saying, and I think it was genuine. I think he's genuinely that type of enthusiastic. I don't think it's a put on with that guy. And frankly, you talk about following him on Twitter. The day, okay, I don't. This is what they call a humble brag, I guess, but. The day he followed me on Twitter, I was like, whoa, I love that guy. And his career didn't turn out as well as it maybe should. He made a couple of all-star teams, and he was good. But we all expected more, and maybe that colors it a little bit. But Sean Casey, certainly, he's inner circle. He's up there with Eugenio Suarez and a few other guys as the most likable Red of my lifetime. Yeah. Chris, any thoughts on Sean Casey?
Well, I think Casey is, we can say his career maybe – didn't do as well as we hoped, but I think that guy got every ounce out of the talent he had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you look at the guy, he had great bats of ball skill, and he had a good eye. That's kind of it. Like,
he ran like he had a piano on his back.
Yeah. The scouts would call him a bad body guy. And, he just, I think he got a lot out of it. I mean, he had a long major league career because he was a good dude and because he could rake a little bit. So yeah, great pick there.
Yeah. And again, I don't, in saying that his career could have been better, that's kind of feels like I'm criticizing him, but he had a great career. He had a really good career. All right. So I think we've all named 4 of our top 5. So let's run through,
I've only done 3. I've only done 3.
Yeah, you're at 3. So you're another guy that you put on your list that I'm a little bit upset that I didn't put on mine because he's probably right outside, but he's up there.
Yeah,
Chris,
well, this is purely likability for me, and it's Johnny Cueto.
Oh.
I mean, the dude, and I'm not sure if I'm voting for Johnny Cueto, the Cincinnati Red, Johnny Cueto, the major league player, or Johnny Cueto's Instagram account right now. Because they're all 3 just pure treasures. I mean, you start with the guy that came up to the Reds, and we've talked about this. Like they had 3 good pitchers in a span of 20 years. or right, 25 years. They had three really good pitchers: Soto, Rio, and Cueto. And so when Johnny Cueto came up and he almost threw a no-hitter in his second start, we were like, oh my gosh, we finally got another guy who can compete at the highest level from the mound. And he had a really, really great career as a Red. And then he left, and I can't believe it's been so long. What is it, 7 years ago? He was traded away. And he still pitched, and like I don't think there's a single Reds fan who roots against Cueto. All the time he's been gone from the team. So I mean, I went out and bought a Royals hat when they traded him to the Royals. And you know, if you haven't checked out his Instagram account, I mean, the dude is living his best life every day of the year.
I'm doing that right now.
Sharing it with you and me on Instagram.
And living his best life is the exact way to put it. Because listen, I get a notification that Johnny Cueto's going live. I'm clicking. I'm watching that. Nate, I'm surprised Cueto, because that seems like would be in your will. I'm a little surprised he didn't make your top 5.
When I saw him on Chris's list, I had a tinge of regret. Totally understand it. I remember his first start. Like, he came out and he threw a really good game. We knew who he was. He wasn't a no-name prospect, but he wasn't a A-lister either. And there was just something about his stature and his wind up as the years went on. Like, everything about this guy just kind of seemed interesting. And then to hear him talk, like, one of my best friends went and watched a game in Cincinnati one time and went out to the bar, and it was a game that Johnny Cueto pitched. And who was there buying rounds of shots? It was Johnny Cueto. What you just said about Eric Davis and some of these guys, like, Johnny Cueto's kind of that for me. I wish I'd have put him on there. Chris, you hit the nail on the head. I think every Reds fan has to root for him, no matter what laundry he's wearing. Yeah,
who could dislike Johnny Cueto? I mean, Chris, do you have a particular? I guess, but do you have a particular Cueto Instagram post you want to mention here?
Oh, everyone should experience that for themselves firsthand.
Oh, go look up, Google, do the Google, as they say, and look up Johnny Cueto and his horse. That's all I'll say. It was an interesting day on the Instagrams. So, okay. So now we're all 4. I'll go with my 5th pick. And this is a guy that I put on my list. And now I'm realizing that I probably should have put Eric Davis or Johnny Cueto on the list here, or even somebody that Nate's going to talk about in a moment. His 5th could have been there instead of this guy, but I'm going to mention Tom Browning, because Tom Browning, it was some of what we've been talking about here in terms of likability. The guy that went up on Wrigley above the out over the fence over there on the building across from the fence at Wrigley, and the guy who pitched a perfect game, which when I was a teenager, which is amazing, and the guy who was, I don't know why, but it always, one of my favorite stories about the 1990 World Series was when he left to go to the hospital because his kid was being born, and Marty Brenneman's trying to get him back to the stadium over the radio. And I don't know, there's something about Tom Browning. He worked quick, but there's something about him that always appealed to me as a player. And for a while, post Mario Soto, I don't know. I thought, Tom Brady might be my favorite guy. So he's really probably 7th. If I think about it a little more, to show you how much preparation I do for these podcasts, I would have added Davis or Cueto, but I don't know. Tom Browning holds a special place in my heart. Either of you have any comments about Tom Browning?
I'm glad that we all didn't pick the exact same 5, because that'd have been pretty boring. Tom has always seemed like one of those, like, beat of his own drum kind of guys. I didn't have a ton of experience with him, but I love reading about him in the book and all the little anecdotes that pop up over the years. It seemed like he would have been a fun guy to root for.
Probably been a fun guy to hang out at the bar with too, but we won't talk about that. Chris?
No, I'm with you. It's a good choice. He's a really likable, fun guy, and had some incredible moments with the Reds.
All right, Case. That's my son. Nate, who's your number 5?
I went with Chris Sabo. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have a ton of reasons why, but he was my first favorite player. You know, that I was 5 years old for that 1990 team. He shows up with the rec specs, young fellow, rookie of the year, before I can remember when rookies of the year were. But I remember we had a poster in my bedroom. And, you know, he had one of the visuals. You can remember the rec specs. And you have a World Series team, and you got the young guy, and he's kind of like that grinder, that sort of work hard type of fella. He's my first favorite
Cincinnati
player.
loves those. Yeah.
He had to be on my list.
Yeah, and he could have been on my list. He's close. He's top 10 for me, just in terms of favorite, certainly. Chris, does he land anywhere near the top 10 on your list?
No, you know, I don't know what it is about those guys, and I don't know if it was, when I was kind of a late teenager, because I'm thinking about Larkin is kind of the same way. I don't know. The guys that came up there a little bit later, I don't know if I saw them more as my own age, and I just didn't get that like deep kind of passionate connection to them or what. But Sabo was fun for sure, but I kind of just enjoyed him, but not top guy for me.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know. He came up and he had all the, the rookie of the year stuff. And, I don't know. He was just, and then a big, really short career, but a good career for a few years. But, he drove a Ford Escort, like, for years after he was a 84 Ford Escort or something for years after he was in the big leagues. I don't know. He's the typical guy that Sens fans have always fallen in love with. He just had a little more talent than Chris Hines, I think, is where we are.
I think for me, what like maybe turned me off was that weirdo interview after the World Series win.
It was great.
He was like talking super fast and like, I don't know, just we kick your ass.
If you've not seen his interview after the World Series, I think it was at the parade, and it didn't very bad, but it's hilarious too. So, all right, Chris, who's on your list?
All right, number 5 on my list is a guy I never saw play, a guy who's be 105 years old this year. So this is kind of just a guy I wanted to talk about, and kind of in the context of some other guys, and it's Bob Thurman. And you might have heard Bob Thurman's name this summer when Joey Votto at age 37 was hitting a whole bunch of home runs, because Bob Thurman was on the list along with Ken Griffey Jr. for the most Reds home runs at age 37 or up. And so Thurman was a guy on the Reds in the late 50s. And he came up with the Reds in 1955, and he was listed, I think, at 33 or 34 years old. And in fact, he was 38. He had played in the Negro Leagues in the late 40s with guys like Josh Gibson, I think, and some other Hall of Famers. I'm sorry, this is zoning out. But he had played in the Negro Leagues on the Homestead Grays, eventually made it up to the Reds. He's a member of the Puerto Rican Baseball Hall of Fame, played a ton of years in winter ball, and was like a huge power hitter. And by the time he was able to make it into the National League or the American League, the Reds had really fully integrated their team. And they were pretty late to the party there, but they brought in several of these guys who were veteran players to build around Frank Robinson, basically, and to build a community of African-American players to make it easier on their younger stars like Robinson and the guys coming up behind him, Vada Pinson, Kurt Flood, and some other guys. And Thurman was a guy who, when he was 38 years old, making his quote-unquote major league debut for the Reds, hit 7 home runs, hit 8 home runs at 39, and at age 40 – hit 16 home runs at age 40 in only 206 plate appearances. So his power per time at bat was up there, basically leading the National League at that time. And he hadn't gotten a chance to play, and he finally did. And as far as being a teammate, he was a guy who would basically make the traveling arrangements for the other African-American players when they went places that they couldn't stay with their teammates. He was kind of the leader of that group of players. So just a guy that I think is obviously unheard of. I never saw him play. I don't really know what he was like as a player. He's a big left-handed power hitter, but just a guy I wanted to shout out and share some information about.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the Bob Thurman story here basically is why I'm so glad we undertook that project about the book, because I didn't really know much about him, and we learned a lot about him through that process. And a lot of it was your research that you did. And you're right. This is a guy that, you know, if he'd been given a chance, this guy's a star. And he wasn't, but he's still more significant in Reds history than almost anyone realizes because of, I mean, he was good as an older player, but he was also that guy that kind of helped some of these younger guys. And you mentioned Frank Robinson, Beta Pinson especially, but if you don't know about Bob Thurman, first of all, you should have read the book because we did talk about him a little bit, but it's a fantastic choice. If for no other reason than this is a guy that we need to talk about on this show, and that Reds fans need not to forget. So, Nate, you know about him now?
Yes, really the big benefit of hanging out with older people is getting to
learn slow your roll.
Historical figures.
There you go.
Yeah, so there you go. All right, so Nate's top 5: Adam Dunn, Chris Sabo, Barry Larkin, Joey Votto, Sean Casey. Chris's: Eric Davis, Jose Rijo, Joey Votto, Johnny Cueto, and Bob Thurman. And then me, Adam Dunn, Barry Larkin, Mario Soto, Joey Votto, and Tom Browning in no particular order. That was fun, guys. That took longer than I expected. You want to talk about the news of the week?
Well, this shouldn't take up too much time.
Yeah, no news of the week. They're still locked out. Do either of you have predictions about whether we're going to play a full 162 game season? Chris?
I don't know. I don't really feel as optimistic as a lot of people do. I think the owners are very happy with the economic system the way it is and feel they have leverage to push the players around. And I think the players are fed up with it. So I don't see them making a deal anytime soon.
Yikes. Nate, have you changed your opinion?
I don't disagree with Chris said, even though I don't love it. People will be listening to this on Friday. We're recording on Thursday, so the owners and the players met today. Nothing happened. They brought out one of their core economic proposals. The players' union didn't particularly like it, and they left. That was to be expected. This is how these things work in a couple days. I think the speed with which the players come back with their counter is going to be telling. If they wait a couple weeks, then we might be in real danger. I think we're almost certain to lose some spring training games at this point. I won't go as far as to say I'm worried about the regular season yet. But yeah, if they wait a couple weeks before they even make a counter, I think Chris might be right. And I don't love it.
Well, they've not talked in a while, and I'm, I still think we'll get 162 games in, but I don't know. It depends, I guess, on how set the players are on fighting this. Because they've got some real grievances, I think, and some legitimate, arguments. But I guess is the question on all these labor stoppages: how serious are they about attempting to really make real change from the players' standpoint? So I don't know. We'll see. We'll learn more, and hopefully by next week we'll have more. Other Reds news of the week. I mean, guys, the Reds signed Ben Lively. That's exciting, right? Remember him?
No.
Yeah.
Great for punsters, really, having him come back to the fold.
Yeah, Ben Lively. I don't know. Nate, you can tell us a little bit about Julio Murillo, maybe, this week.
Before we talk about him, I wanted to bring up Lorenzo Cedrola.
Okay.
So
spring training invite. The Reds gave him a spring training invite.
Am I crazy to kind of like this guy? I mean, he's
because of his name.
He had a solid year last year. We stink in center field. I think he had a 106 weighted runs created plus in AAA last year. He's got some AAA experience. I don't hate this one. I'm actually I can't justify it. I have a good feeling about this guy.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're expecting, I guess. It's a minor league deal, invited him to spring training, and he was with the Reds previously, but he's a good name, Lorenzo Cedrola, and went to the Red Sox because the Reds traded, I think, some cap space, international bonus pool spending money. I hate 2022 baseball, but anyway, yeah, he doesn't walk much at all, and that's the biggest problem. But evidently, he plays good defense. He's good on the base paths. Makes a lot of contact. Doesn't strike out a lot. I don't know. I mean, organizational depth, maybe. I don't know. This is where we've been reduced to. No power. Well, he fits right
walk
in.
or hit for home run. So,
well, then what's the argument? I think as a backup, I think he's certainly a depth guy that can. I think he actually could help the big league team eventually, but I don't know. I struggle to see him being a. Well, the Reds do need a center fielder, though. Is he better than TJ Friedel?
Well, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to start, 80 or 100 games for us. But I have a sneaking suspicion that we'll see him in a major league uniform a good bit of the year.
Maybe he platoons with Friedel. He's bats right-handed.
Yeah,
I mean that's not an appealing idea, but maybe where we are.
Yeah, I do apologize that I just led us on a multi-minute discussion about players that may or may not see the big league.
Yeah, this is where we are as Reds fans, though, right?
We can't touch on Julio Murillo, however you pronounce it. I just he got captured in a story at the Athletic. The guy went from bullpen catcher to translator to now managing in rookie ball. I just think it's a super good story and worth putting some attention on.
Yeah, if you subscribe to the Athletic, go read the piece that was published this week by our friend Trent Rosecrans about his path from being a catcher to a interpreter to a minor league manager. It's pretty interesting. So,
that's all the news.
Let's we've got some viewer mail questions, but quickly, if we could, we're going to introduce a new segment this week. We may have to do it pretty quickly as we've gone on here. But Chris, why don't you tell us about our new segment here?
Well, we realized this week that there's calendars, and it might be interesting to look and see what kind of things have happened in this particular week in Reds history. We also, one of us in the podcast is having a birthday today and thought it might be wonder who else is having birthdays in the Reds family. So we're going to run down a few events from Reds history from this week, as well as some happy birthday shout outs to Reds and former Reds.
Okay, first of all, Nate, happy birthday.
You should have known.
I should have known that. No, wait. How do I not have your birthday on my calendar, Chris? Happy birthday.
Thank you. Well, anyway, by the time everyone watches this podcast, it won't be my birthday anymore. So you can just cut this part right out.
There you go. Well, let's run through the birthdays of the week and see if you all have any anecdotes about any of these players. Let's see here. January 8th, Mike Cameron, Walker Cooper, and Chauncey Fisher. Anybody? What?
Mike Cameron was entertaining for a while.
Mike Cameron was cool. Walker Cooper is famous for being cut out of the Big 50, being bumped by Scooter Gennett.
He was, yeah. Walker Cooper, go look his story up. He was in the Big 50, and then Scooter Gennett hit 4 home runs, and Walker Cooper, bless his heart, he was gone. So Chauncey Fisher played from 1893 to 1901. I know he's one of your he was almost in your top 5, right, Chris?
Yeah, he's in my top 5 guys named Chauncey.
There you go. What about January the 11th? Anybody want to tackle January the 11th, the birthdays in Reds history from January the 11th?
I just missed some of the names. Silver King.
King.
What a great name. I'm going to name my son Silver King Dotson.
It's beautiful.
He pitched for the Reds in 1893. That's even before Chris's time, who is the oldest of all of us.
That's right.
By a few months. Lloyd Mcclendon. I thought Lloyd Mcclendon was going to be great, didn't you, Chris? I bet you thought Lloyd Mcclendon was going to be great, didn't you?
I did. I thought Bo Diaz was going to be pushed right out of the way, and Lloyd McClendon would take over.
How many former Reds that we thought were going to be great ended up being Pirates managers? Just McClendon and Clint Hurdle? I don't know. Maybe.
I think so far, maybe Willie Green will get a turn sometime soon.
January the 12th. Chris, you want to tell us about January the 12th? Birthdays from January the 12th.
Got
good names there.
Short-term Reds left-handers Dontrell Willis and Alex Wood celebrate birthdays. And then a fellow from the early part of the 20th century who has, I think, a better name even than Silver King. And his name is Admiral Schley.
Oh, love him.
And the Admiral was a Cincinnati native who was the first catcher in Reds history to wear shin guards.
Ooh, is that right?
Yeah.
Like I said, the first in Reds history, not the first in baseball history.
Right.
That's right. And there was a span of time where other people were like, nah, this is not for me. Not yet.
Soft. The game's going soft.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
Yeah. And then a guy named Dan Daub, who I just liked his name. He played for the Reds in 1892. And then future Red center fielder Reggie Taylor.
Reggie Taylor, one of the first Red center fielders that really, really irritated me, bless his heart. But
he was in a run of those guys.
Yeah,
we go from Taylor to Tavares to Patterson. Was that the 2000s?
Man. When I saw Taylor's name, I got these weird shivers, like it's like PTSD. And I had completely blocked him out of my memory. I went back and did some Googling and regretted every second of it.
Yeah, I remember all that.
Yeah, he joined the Reds in 2002. And that's when I first really started thinking, wait a minute, maybe Jim Bowden doesn't know what he's doing. So I'll take January 13th. Kevin Mitchell. Happy birthday to Kevin Mitchell. Kevin Mitchell, the career leader in Baseball Reference, wins above replacement for any player that was born on January the 13th. Kevin Mitchell also, and I'll ask, I don't know if Nate remembers him much, but I'll ask Chris. I think he may be the most amazing player I've ever seen, even though he barely played for the Reds. I mean, that guy was legitimately great we talk about Eric Davis, but that guy was legitimately great for a short period of time.
I don't remember anybody in the Reds hitting the ball harder.
Yeah.
I mean, Willie Mo Pena, maybe. But Kevin Mitchell hit the ball a lot more often.
Yeah,
he was something, man.
There's some stats to back that up. He still owns the Reds' single-season record for slugging percentage, .681 in 1994. And if anybody, the only real memory I have from him is go back and do some Googling and check out his barehanded catch in the outfield.
Not with the Reds, but amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I hate to mention Twitter, but
how he was described to me. He was this guy who hits the ball real hard and once made a barehanded catch.
Yeah. Not that we should ever talk about Twitter. Don't join Twitter if you're not on there, but somebody literally retweeted the video of him catching a fly ball barehanded into my feed just today.
I thought I saw that too. I'm glad that wasn't just like a weird flashback for me. I saw that too.
Yeah. Incredible. Kevin Mitchell. Just amazing. Elmer DeSenz also January 13th. Happy birthday to Elmer DeSenz. Another guy, if we're talking about underrated Reds, I mean, I know we make fun of his name, but Elmer DeSenz was really, during a time when the Reds had zero pitchers, literally zero pitchers. Elmer DeSenz was kind of pretty good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got it done. He was, I'd have to go back and see, like, was Elmer DeSenz a top 30 pitcher in the league, or was he like number 150 and that was as good as we got?
Yeah. Well, that's the best we could hope for. Yeah. So I'm a little disappointed we have to mention this name. I thought we were done with him, but Heath Hembry, born on January 13th. Cactus Keck. Everyone knows Cactus Keck played in 1922 and 1923 for the Reds, right?
He's also a famous lawman in Tombstone, Arizona.
Notably.
It feels like some kind of weird drink, like soda pop you'd find in an old candy store. Like you want root beer, sarsaparilla, or a Cactus Keck.
You know, as a matter of fact, we drove Route 66 this summer. I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere, like in Amarillo, Texas, or somewhere. Right?
Tall bottle of Cactus Keck before you go.
Oh, that's great. And the last one on January 13th, Mike Dejan. What do we think, Mike? How do we pronounce that?
Dejan? I don't know.
just calling him Mikey Mustard.
Played in 1940. But Chris,
does he have a ring?
He played in 1940?
What's that?
Do you think he played in 1940, or could you be convinced of another year?
Well, it sounds like a guy that would have been like in the bullpen in the 2017 Reds, doesn't it?
How would we know?
I don't know. I just want to know. I don't know. Good for Mike.
Obscure former Reds. Nate, before we finish this out, you want to finish up with January the 14th?
The 14th we had, was it the Gary Green? So this is one that Chris actually pointed out to me, and I didn't know a ton about it. This guy was apparently the reason Barry Larkin became a Hall of Famer.
Evidently.
Chris, if you want to go into more detail about it, I just thought this was such a super fun story that the other listeners would get a kick out of.
So Gary Green played he was on the 1992 Reds for 2 weeks at the end of April. Larkin had a collision with Glenn Braggs, and as you could imagine, like anyone, got hurt in the process. So Freddie Benavides took over the starting role, and they brought this Gary Green guy up from AAA to be the backup shortstop. Green was a former first-round pick, had not really done much, kind of an all-field no-hit guy. But Gary Green, with Barry Larkin, were members of the 1984 U.S. Olympic team. And Green, who had graduated from Oklahoma State, was the starting shortstop, while Barry Larkin, who was only a sophomore at Michigan, was a backup. And, years later, like when Green made the Reds, there was a story about it, and they quoted Green, and they quoted the manager of the Olympic team, who was Rod Dato, the longtime USC coach. And, they all said great things. Oh, Larkin was great. He was amazing, but he was so young. We didn't want to let him start. We wanted to make the veteran the starting shortstop. But I read this somewhere, and I would love it if you guys or any of our viewers have heard this story. But I am positive I read a story where Barry Larkin was downright Jordan-esque in nursing a resentment against Gary Green for being not the starter of on the Olympic baseball team in 1984. And that Larkin used that to, spur his own development, to prove everybody wrong, and to show that he was, in fact, the best player on that team. So Gary Green, I can't imagine what that was like in the locker room when Gary Green came up, if they were, hey, good buddy, good to see you. Probably, they said Larkin was nothing but, appropriate when he was on the team, on the bench. He was a good player. So, but it's kind of a weird full circle moment for very short-term Red and birthday boy tomorrow, Gary Green.
Happy birthday, Gary Green.
At least he's getting happy birthday wishes from us, because he's not getting them from Barry.
It's true. I can just see Barry Larkin looking at an iPad. If you've seen the Last Dance documentary, I can see Barry looking at an iPad and saying, and that's when it got personal. And he became a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So when this episode drops, it'll be Gary Green's 60th birthday, and best wishes to Gary and family.
Absolutely. So quickly, in terms of birthdays, I'll mention that January the 14th, also Mike Frank, notable center fielder, notable mostly for being the center fielder in the Young, Frank, and Steins outfield for the Reds. Dimitri Young, Mike Frank, and Chris Steins, the Young Frankensteins outfield. And then one other, Chris, quickly, if you can talk about Steve Cook. Steve Cook's birthday. Everybody remembers Steve Cook, right?
Steve Cook, 1998. Steve Cook was acquired by Jim Bowden. He was all set to be the Reds' third starter.
Can I say this first quickly? I'm sorry, Chris. Can I say this? I have no memory of Steve Cook.
Well, none. I don't either, really. I mean, you and I were both in law school at the time, and probably not following the team as closely. Cook was the number 3 starter. He came out the third game of the year. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, looking good. Warming up for the second start of the year, and he's got elbow tendonitis. He got a twinge in his elbow. The infamous Gabe White came in to start for him, and Cook went on the DL. And in his story as old as time, Steve Cook spent the entire season on the disabled list was promised to return many times. If you go through the season reading the newspaper, Cook's expected back. Oh, Cook had a setback. Cook, he actually came off the DL. For some reason was activated and sat on the bench for 5 days. And it came to his time to start, and he wasn't able to go, and they put him back on the DL. Just typical mind-boggling management. But Steve Cook never pitched for the Reds again, and in fact, never pitched in the major leagues again after that one start in 1998. Happy birthday, Steve Cook.
Nate, any thoughts about Steve Cook?
I have none whatsoever. You all have the law school thing to fall back on. I just don't remember it.
I have no memory. So, all right. So happy birthday, Steve Cook. I hope you figured it out. We were also going to do this week in Reds history. And I want to quickly run through it before we get to viewer mail because we got to get out of here. But we've had too much fun up to this point. So this week in Reds history, I guess I'll either you want to volunteer to do the first one and just quickly tell me what happened on that day, January 7th, this week in Reds history. Either you want to volunteer?
Yeah, that was in 1971. Reds outfielder Bobby Tolan ruptured his Achilles tendon while playing basketball on the Cincinnati Reds off-season basketball team.
Great idea.
He missed the entire 1971 season. The Reds, he was never the same, and the Reds, it probably led to the Reds trading for Joe Morgan a year later. So, crazy thing. They stopped the Reds from playing basketball in the offseason after that.
Yeah, it worked out. January 9th, this week in Reds history, January 9th, it's a Hall of Fame. This was back when they used to elect people to the Hall of Fame in early January. Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, and Barry Larkin all elected to the Hall of Fame on January the 9th in 89, 90, and 2012. Also, the Reds traded Mike Kelly Atlanta traded Mike Kelly to Cincinnati for minor league pitcher Chad Fox, and the Reds signed Kelly Stinnett. Okay, the Hall of Fame stuff is much more interesting. So, Nate, you want to talk about January 10th?
Yeah, there was several things that happened on January 10th. Almost none of them are worth our time. So I'm going to move on to 2012. This was a particularly impactful one for me. The Reds signed reliever Ryan Madsen to a 1-year deal. That was an exciting moment. He had a good run up to that point. We were pretty excited here in Cincinnati land. Unfortunately, Mr. Madsen would miss the entire season and never throw a single pitch for the Reds. Still, relatively fun year for the Reds, but it's a big what if in recent Reds history.
Oh, Chris, I guess I go to you. Why is that such a what if? If Ryan Madsen had been the closer that year, what happened?
I think that means that Aroldis Chapman stays in the starter pitcher, right?
Yeah. So that's a huge what if, as Nate said. A couple of things on January 10th I'll mention quickly. The Reds bought Mordecai Brown. That's Mordecai Three-Finger Brown back in 1913, future Hall of Famer. And I had no memory that the Reds actually signed Mordecai Three-Finger Brown, a Hall of Famer. And then in 1973, the Reds in the Major League Draft picked Southern Mississippi punter Ray Guy. Now, Chris is my age, so Ray Guy was like a legend in the 80s, right? He's a punter for the Raiders, right?
Yeah, he was a Raiders punter for forever. I mean, those guys used to punt till they were like 42 years old or something, right? He's a Hall of Famer in the NFL.
That's what I was going to ask. He has to be a Hall of Famer, right? Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so January 11th, I'll take this one. The Reds trade for Alex Johnson. Alex Johnson is 1968. If you don't know Alex Johnson, and most Reds fans don't, he was better than you realize. He was really good early on. They traded for him. He later on is traded for Pedro Borbon, who becomes a Reds Hall of Famer. The only other thing to mention that happened on January 11th goes back to Aroldis Chapman, who we just talked about. Signed a 6-year contract with the Reds out of Cuba. And Chapman, whatever you think about him, Chapman was a superstar for the Cincinnati Reds and after the Cincinnati Reds. And that ended up being a big-time deal for the Reds. Any thoughts from either of you about Chapman or?
the most electrifying player of my lifetime. People talk about like, in basketball who's the most dominant, like Shaq's the most dominant, if so-and-so might be the best. Chapman is the most electrifying player that I've ever seen step on a field.
I thought you were talking about Alex Johnson. Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, I remember being in the park back when I used to go to the park, and Chapman would come in, and it was crazy, right?
It never got old. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, maybe, you know, now it's a little different. A lot of guys throw that hard, but man.
So much.
And then
he's throwing 100. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. What else we have this week? January 14th. Chris, I'm going to hand this to you, and then we'll get to viewer mail quickly.
Yeah. Let's see. Just a few transactions on the 14th. This is back when the Reds used to make moves in January.
I remember that.
Yeah. One of our favorite players, Chris Sabo, departed the Reds in 1994 on this date, signed as a free agent by the Orioles. A longtime Red came back in 1999 when the Reds traded for Hal Morris to bring him back.
A sneaky favorite.
Yeah.
Underrated. Yeah.
And then the Reds acquired outfielder Alex Ochoa in 2000, who was, I guess we would describe him as a member of the 2000 Cincinnati Reds.
But I remember thinking that he was going to be good for some reason.
He was was he an Expos prospect, I think, that was really hyped up for a while. And anyway,
we talked.
That's
we
it.
talked
This week in
ourselves.
Reds history.
We talked ourselves into being excited for so many bad players over the years. It's crazy. All right, let's do a lightning round here for our viewer mail questions. Viewer mail, these come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. That's patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Couple new members of the Beer League softball team, new members of the family here. I want to go ahead and mention them first. Carl J. Mitz, Mitze, Mitz, I think. Carl J. Mitz. Guys, what position does Carl play on our Beer League softball team?
I got him as a slugging third baseman. What do you think?
Chris?
Well, there actually was a major leaguer named Carl Mitz, or a minor leaguer named Carl Mitz, spelled with a C and not a K. And he was a minor league catcher throughout 1905 to 1929. So I'm going to say Carl is following in his great-grandfather's steps and playing behind the plate.
I like
you think great-grandfather? You don't think it's the same guy?
Not impossible.
Born 1886.
All right,
No
Carl,
shin.
thank you so much. Go ahead, Nate.
There are no shin guards on that guy.
That's right.
We're a mask.
Establish that. Yeah, really. Carl, yeah, I think Carl has to be a catcher because he's a man. He's a dude. Carl, thank you so much for joining the family at Patreon. Love you, buddy. Next is Joseph Prince. Joseph Prince. Thank you again for becoming a member of the family. Nate, what position do you have for Joseph Prince?
I struggle with this one. I landed on a center fielder. I feel like the last name Prince lends itself to a lot of high-profile positions. But I kind of got him in the Willie Mays Hayes role, a speedy, flashy center fielder.
I can dig that. I can dig that. Chris, you object?
I'm with you. Yeah, he took over for Silver King.
He took over Silver King. Kudos to Joseph Prince. Thank you so much for joining the family this week, guys. Appreciate both of you, Carl and Joseph. All right, first question, Joe Farsing, and Farsing ignores me and Nate, but what's up, guys? This is for Garber, per usual. Donuts. Is there anything they can't do? Chris, you got to answer this one.
I'm going to get it wrong. I feel like I'm being cued here for a Simpsons quote, but I don't have it. So sorry, Joe, if I'm missing it, but I did enjoy a Boston cream this morning.
What about what are the oh goodness, it's too late. What are the hamburgers that Principal Skinner, what did he call those hamburgers when he had
Steamed hams?
Steamed hams, yeah, when he had Super Nintendo Chalmers in there with it.
Yeah.
Steamed hams.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm up to season 22, by the way. I've been rewatching all of them with my son.
Oh, right.
Season 22. And I still got like 100 seasons to go. Joey Gaditza. This is actually, we're going to go to Kyle Kapler first. Kyle Kapler, who would win in a race from the bullpen to the mound? Kyle, I love you, but this is an easy answer. Jared Hughes or Todd Coffey? Jared Hughes and Todd Coffey, two notable former Reds who ran from the bullpen to the mound. The answer is easy, right? It's got to be. I mean, Todd Coffey was. What's the correct term to use these days?
Yeah, where are you going? What's the adjective you've got in mind?
He was
stout.
I don't know. He was stout.
Portly, on his side.
Husky.
A little husky. He wore husky jeans.
I think the longer the race is, the more Todd Coffey has a chance. Gets the momentum behind him. He's picking up speed the whole way.
His face was awful red after running 200 feet from the bullpen to the mound.
He could barely handle it.
I had kind of forgotten about Todd Coffey. I was glad that this question got thrown out there. I missed that guy.
He is a guy.
He's a guy.
I like that.
Yeah, it's Jared Hughes. Okay, Joey Gaditza has a legit question. Hey guys, who gets hot first this season, Gino or Moose? And that's Eugenio Suarez or Mike Moustakas. Hopefully both, he says. To me, this is a legit question because I think Gino and Moose, who plays third base the majority of the time, is kind of a question here. But Nate, I'll go to you first. Any thoughts about who gets hot first and who should have that third base spot?
Well, it's a legit question, and I have a legit answer. It's obviously Moose. And the answer is because Gino's more used to the warm weather. Moose is from L.A., which is hot in its own right, but Gino's from Puerto Ordaz, which is just a little bit warmer as far as average annual temperatures go.
Nate, you actually did some research. I disapprove. Chris, I think those guys, I'll throw it to you this way. Those guys, Eugenio Suarez and Mike Moustakas, that's got to be the third place, either platoon or one of those guys is on the bench and one of those guys is playing. I think, right? If the roster is as it's currently.
Yeah, one of those guys better get hot or the team's in real trouble.
What about Kyle Farmer at third?
Third and short.
Please.
Who?
No.
He's not
Come
Kyle.
on.
He's no Kyle Farmer.
Who is? All right, Rex Scott. Chris, another one directed at Chris.
There we go. This is good.
Chris, when I got my copy of The Big 50 and read your bio, that's The Big 50.
He read it cover to cover, Chad. Cover to cover. He got to the bio cover to cover. Well done, Rex. Thank you.
I'm just glad he read the bios. He said, I saw that we are both Ohio University Bobcats. You, Chris Garber, and Rex, and Tom Brenneman. All right, so questions for you from Rex. What were your favorite Uptown bars? Chris, you got an answer to that?
The answers to that are the Junction, which is similar but not the same anymore, the Pub, and the Crystal Casino. But no one ever said the word casino.
Okay. Next question. Did you ever hang out at the Monument and smoke illicit substances there?
I did not. And he is, I believe, speaking of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument on the College Green, I would eat a burrito there. I would watch people play drums there. I would listen to Brother Jed and his family of itinerant preachers there. But that was all I did there.
Correct answer. Last one, which I disapprove of because I hate all Bobcats. But last question is that most important of all, how did you follow up with Chad? That's me. When the Bobcats upset his Virginia Cavaliers in last year's NCAA tournament. I will also note that's also Nate's Virginia Cavaliers, but how did you follow it with Chad and Nate when the Bobcats upset his Virginia Cavaliers in last year's NCAA tournament?
I think the answer is graciously.
I think that's the right answer. You were extremely gracious.
I was very confident that the Bobcats were actually going to win that game. So I was prepared for it. I enjoyed it. And I acted like I'd been there before as a fan.
And I didn't care because Virginia was the defending national champions.
You had 2 years in running defending national champ.
2-year defending national champs. Right, Nate? Come on. You got me.
I'm just glad I didn't put his number back then.
All right. Hooper Powell asks at Red Leg Nation, at patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. I can't keep all this straight. I'm going to go to you with this one, Nate. My nephew started to look at colleges. My advice would be University of Colorado. Besides your alma mater, where do you wish you attended college? And then second question is Reds question, favorite Reds TV analyst of all time. Where should his nephew go to college, Nate? Quickly.
First answer, out of the country. Go do something crazy. You only get one chance at this life. Get out and experience something that he's never going to get to do otherwise. If he's going to stay domestic, I'm going to go somewhere like Montana State. I feel like Bozeman would be a pretty cool town to spend a couple of years in. Maybe go to the local bar, get to meet Kevin Costner, weasel my way into that scenario. Get spot on Yellowstone. So there's my.
I like it. Nate spent some time in China. That's a different country. Google it.
A different country.
Yeah, but Chris, what university would you recommend?
Hooper is onto it. I'm thinking things are good in Boulder, man. University of Colorado is a great school, great town. I don't. There's a lot, man. There's a lot of fun places. I don't know. Austin, maybe. UCLA. UC Santa Barbara. Those are all cool ideas.
Yeah, somewhere warm, somewhere fun. I'm going to go with University of Colorado. I think it's the right answer. It's not a bad answer at all. Quickly, favorite Reds TV analyst of all time. The real answer to me is Chris Welsh. Clearly, and I guess I don't know if you call George Grand an analyst, but George Grand is. I underrated him at the time. Is there quickly? We'll go to Chris first.
Welsh.
It's Welsh. Nate?
I'm going to make a comment here tonight that it's going to go out over the air, and I'm deeply ashamed of it. If I've hurt anyone out there, I can't tell you how much. I say from the bottom of my heart that I'm so very, very sorry. Pride myself in this answer and think of myself as a man of faith. There's a drive into deep left field by Castellanos, and that'll be a home run.
He went there.
I'm also
all right, Rich Thompson.
The Cowboy. Love the Cowboy.
Can I say Cowboy was at the bottom of my list when he first started, and he is close to the top now. It's Chris Welsh, obviously, but Cowboy has improved. That's Jeff Brantley for those of you out there in Rio Linda or whatever. Rich Thompson. Rich Thompson has given us 2 questions, and we've run a long time, so I got to pick one of those. I don't know. Chris, any suggestions? First or second one of his questions? We got to get out of here.
Do the first one.
All right, first question from Rich Thompson.
Math and things like that.
Yeah, I don't want that. So, gentlemen, when I was and Rich, our friend Rich Thompson from William and Mary University, when I was a kid back in the 70s, it seemed like some utility players could make an MLB roster and have successful careers, essentially by being decent defensive players. Since the 1980s, it's my belief that utility players must also now provide some offensive clout to make an MLB roster. Short and pithy, Rich. I love you, buddy, but I keep telling you, with all this said, do you believe if we could go back in time and bring back 1974 Daryl Chaney at the pinnacle of his Reds career, would he make the 2022 Reds opening day roster or any other team's roster? Now, a lot of viewers are not really going to understand this, but this is actually a really interesting question about the state of baseball now and, what teams value. Chris, do you have any thoughts? Daryl Chaney.
Yeah, so I think this is interesting. The peak of his powers, Daryl Chaney hit 200, 327 on base, and a 304 slugging percentage. It all added up to a 0.1 wins above replacement. So Daryl Chaney, at his peak, was a replacement level player using the metrics we use today. So no, he would not have had an 8-year major league career, 11-year career that he had. Those guys are gone, and nobody replaced them. They've been replaced with middle relievers. Those
It's true.
guys who could handle the bat, maybe lay down a bunt and be cromulent at all the infield positions. That job is gone. It's not that they've been replaced with other infielders. The job got eliminated.
I 100% agree with everything you just said, which kind of scares me because I've never agreed with anything Chris said. But Nate, this is before your time. Daryl Chaney, any hot takes on Daryl Chaney?
He played professional softball for the Cincinnati Reds, so he at the very least could have made our beer league softball team.
This is why I keep Nate around. I love it. No, I think Chris's answer is right. He does not make a big league roster now. The game has just changed. And, kudos to Daryl Chaney for what he did for our Reds. But, yeah, not happening.
Can I add one more Daryl Chaney fact? And this is an assignment for all of our viewers.
I've been begging you to make more Daryl Chaney comments for years.
Please, folks, go to google.com or your box of baseball cards and find Daryl Chaney's 1978 Topps Atlanta Braves baseball card. Because he's wearing a collared shirt under his jersey, and I think everyone should see that.
Yes, we all need to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Oh man, guys, as we always do, we went longer than we expected, but this was a lot of fun. I'm going to ask you right now, any final thoughts? Nate, I'll go to you first. Any final thoughts for our viewers out there?
No, this was probably a little too much fun. It's gotten late. I want to throw out there a thank you to our new Patreon subscribers. I know we've got a viewer mail only, Patreon only episode coming up soon. I hope that we can get as many of the contributors as possible involved in that. But yeah, thanks to everybody. After a week off, it's nice to be back.
It was nice to be back. Chris, any final thoughts?
No, everybody, stay safe out there.
Stay safe. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm Chad Dotson. He's Chris Garber. No, actually, I look at his name now. He's Daryl Chaney. And we got Nate Dotson with us. Listen, family, love you all. Thank you so much for following us. We're on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Smash that subscribe button and the like button. For some reason, it matters. I don't know. We're on every podcast platform. If you listen audio only, hang out with us. And we're the same way you've always gotten the podcast. Go to patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy if you want to join the family. If you don't, whatever. I don't care. I love the guys that have joined us. What's that, Nate?
I've got a prominent MySpace page. You can check that out too.
Ooh, check out Nate's MySpace page. And, Chris, I don't know. You need to write him a letter on send it to the U.S. mail.
Yeah, we are on all podcast platforms, and you can check out the podcast at your local library.
Exactly. Hey, gang, listen, for Chris Garber, for Nate Dotson, and for Elmar Descends, our favorite. This is Chad Dotson saying, so long, everyone.